mentioned Colorado or Pennsylvania, but it's brought it a lot closer to communities and into people's backyards. This decision will be a victory for sure, but how it will actually play out in other states that have their own rules is really hard to tell. Every state is going to have their own fights, and I think this is a very big win for New York, but I don't think it's going to decelerate growth in South Texas, for example.
And how would you say the political environments in these various localities affect the regulatory environment of the industry?
Oh, dramatically. I mean, in some places where oil and gas drilling has been around for a while, there's a very strong relationship between the regulators and the industry. There is a push with these full-out bans, but also with temporary moratoriums to kind of slow down the growth, to take a pause and reassess what kind of rules do we already have on the books and what do we need. In many of these places, the reason these communities are pushing for this pause is because there are a lot of questions surrounding what are the environmental or the public health issues. And I think, as we saw in Colorado this past February, that pushed a lot of new, stricter rules. The industry recognizes, and state legislatures often recognize, that there can be a range of rules on the books, and that, in Colorado they wanted to put stricter rules, but that decision, again, will really have to be made on every state level.
How much is technology driving this, Deborah Goldberg, in the sense that, with fracking you can drill sideways and, every which way once you disrupt the rock underneath the soil and start that gas bubbling?
Well, the technology is huge because what those long lateral wells mean is that the fracking fluids that are needed to develop the gas are much, much more voluminous than they used to be in the past. An ordinary conventional well uses about 80,000 gallons of water and chemicals and sand. A fracked well uses as much as 8 million gallons. And of course, what that means is both that the potential for spills is much greater, but also that the wastes that come back to the surface are massive. And the truck trips that go through these communities to deliver both the water and the chemicals are at a scale that these communities have never seen before. And it's this whole industrialization of the communities that's really driving the resistance.
Now, the price of gas is driving the industry, and there's also a consistent call, even from the White House, Deborah Goldberg, for energy independence. We want to be able to get our energy from places that are far away from the conflicts in the world. This is exactly the kind of development that would do that. How is that argument presented in court, and what do you say to that argument?
Well, the argument doesn't really affect the decision in the court, which is based strictly on statutory interpretation. But I have to say that argument is a little bit disingenuous when, at the same time, the administration is pressing for the export of our natural gas resources. There's no way that we are going to maintain energy independence or maintain a low price on gas if what we do is send it overseas to places like India and Japan, which is what is proposed for the Cove Point, Maryland LNG export facility.
And that would be liquefied natural gas that could come into play and help in the Ukraine crisis by giving an alternative to Europe for natural gas that was coming from Russia. That's a good thing. That's a stabilizing feature of world politics that the U.S. would have a hand in.
Well, that liquid natural gas is not going to get to the